biggest reason for the Flyers' impressive weekend? Was it the fact that the Buffalo Sabres are the worst team I've ever seen? We'll ask Kevin Durso, our Flyers insider. I don't know if they're the worst team, Kevin, but they certainly did not appear that they were all that excited about being there either game this weekend. So we'll get into that as Kevin Durso, our Flyers insider, joins us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. This hour brought to you by Prop Swap, where America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bet, take your profit, find out how at PropSwap.com. Durso's here. Little Flyers in the house as the Flyers take center stage for the next couple of weeks. They're going to be in, feels like a couple of weeks, couple of days. They're going to be in Pittsburgh for 3. But biggest reason for the Flyers' impressive weekend, Kevin, they mopped the ice up with the Sabres, who looked like they had Zippo enthusiasm about being there. What impressed you the most about the Flyers this weekend? Your mic. You got to turn your mic on. There we go. He came on prepared, muted, and then he did not turn it on.
Yeah, I would say the defensive play was the most impressive thing because this was as sound as I think we've seen them so far. And they've gotten a lot of the pieces back that they need to get back. But realistically, you know, we were hearing the questions about the goaltending, what's going on with Carter Hart. And I kind of just said, you know, they'll believe in him because they have all along. It was just one of those situations for him, and Boston kind of has his number. And then I basically kept defending the fact that he's played well against every other team in the division so far. And when you put him against Buffalo, there you go. You got the result you were looking for. Brian Elliott's been outstanding against Buffalo all season. He does well as well. But I think that really, you know, when Justin Braun came back into the lineup, they mixed some things up. Eric Gustafsson played one day, didn't play the next. Phil Myers was in and out. That, to me, you know, the way that all 7 of those guys played collectively over the course of the weekend was really one of the big things. Shane Gostisbehere had an outstanding weekend. Ivan Provorov just continued to play well. I think that really was the key to the success of this particular weekend.
Yeah, no, you just mentioned the defense. This is something that, you know, because of the COVID and all different things, they haven't had a full brigade of guys. They're finally, where are they now with the health of this team as they go into this 3-game road trip, I guess, in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, they're getting very close at this point. And basically, everybody was back over the weekend at this point, and I kind of thought it was a bit of a surprise just because, you know, basically everybody had one practice day, and it was right back into the lineup. We saw that with Claude Giroux. Justin Braun came off of the COVID list and didn't play in that first game, so we knew he was good for the weekend. But then it was Jake Voracek, Scott Laughton, Oscar Lindblom, all back right away, had one day of practice, and jumped right back into the lineup. And we're probably going to see the same thing, quite possibly, with Travis Konechny. He was officially off the COVID list yesterday. He skated today before heading out to Pittsburgh to join the rest of the team. So there's a possibility he's considered a game-time decision for tomorrow. And it wouldn't shock me, given the track record of everybody else who's come off the COVID list, if he's ready to go in about the same amount of time, just gets that one day of skating and joins the team for a morning skate tomorrow and gets ready to go. So this is quite possibly one of the first times all year, outside of maybe the opening night lineup, that they'll have the full group back on the ice. And that's huge for them because to this point, they've weathered a bunch of different storms. They've been without Sean Couturier for an extended period of time. They played games without Phil Myers. They had the whole COVID situation come up, and they're still sitting in a good spot in the standings.
They are. We'll get to that in a minute, but I don't know that your 5 takeaways are in any particular order, because I think your number 2 would be my number 1, Couturier, and what he has brought back to this team. You could see just how different the team is with him back. I mean, that's evident.
Yeah, I mean, how much has this team missed him in general? You know, it's just his presence just makes everybody play better in both areas of the ice. They're better defensively because he's out there, but you saw the offensive effort that he gave on that goal yesterday. That first goal where he's out hustling, he's out working Jack Eichel, and he's getting the positioning he needs, makes a play, is on the receiving end of the rebound there, so he's got a wide open net to score into. And he's got now a 6-game point streak, points in every game he's played since returning from that injury. And in total, that's 10 points over the course of that time, and he's been producing at the level that people expect. But I think that really the big thing is how much his energy just rubs off on everybody else from the defensive side. Now we're seeing the forwards play better defensive structure. Now we're seeing the team have a shoot-first mentality and get more shots on goal in games, limit shots defensively. We're seeing it all come together. This is as close to the team that I remember seeing about a year ago, almost exactly at this time, as we've seen in that entire year since. It wasn't like this in the playoffs for them, and it hadn't been like this all season long until this particular weekend in Buffalo now, and that last game against the Rangers, too, over the course of the last week. I think now we're seeing the team that has that potential to dominate a game against an opponent, especially an opponent like Buffalo, who's not as good. They did exactly what they had to do this weekend. They went out there and they took 4 points away from a team that's not very good right now and probably won't be there at the end of the conversation at the end of the year, and did what they had to do to maintain their position and possibly improve over the course of the coming weeks in the standings.
Now we know, Philly's going to be out in Pittsburgh tomorrow, Thursday, and Saturday. 3 straight against the Penguins here. Give us a little insight on this little series. And, normally we hear Pittsburgh, and they're usually upper echelon, one of the best. Right now, they're actually below Philadelphia in the standings. But this 3-game thing is a pretty interesting spot, right in that spot in the series in the season. I thought this is a very interestingly placed 3-game, because it wasn't like this at the beginning. They moved some games around and then ended up getting here. But I feel like this is an interesting little spot in the season against this Pittsburgh team.
Yeah, it is, and I'm even lumping the next week after as well into this too, because they're going to have a similar thing with Washington coming up as well, where they'll play 3 out of 4 against them, and
Caps, Buffalo, Caps.
Yeah, and it's a unique structure because it's a way to see a team. I would treat this 3 games that they have this week, and same thing with the Washington games, even though they're not in a row next week, but the same thing. Treat it like a 3-game playoff series and make the goal win 2 out of 3. Like you have to win a best of 3 series somehow. Treat it like that and come out and be the better team. Pittsburgh's not a perfect team by any stretch. They're going through some changes as well. I mean, obviously we talked about the Ron Hextall hiring and things like that. So they're going through some changes. And I think there's a lot of pressure on a lot of different guys in that organization. So it's an opportunity. This team is behind you. They're kind of middle of the road in terms of points percentage right now. And they've been a hard team to get a read on too, because they have some good success against other teams. They've played Washington really well all year, but we haven't seen them since the first 2 games of the season, so it could be interesting to see how they look now compared to what they were then, because they were just getting their feet under them. They kind of looked like they did in the playoffs over the summer, I should say, when they didn't look like they had anything for anybody, and that's why they were out of the playoffs so quickly against Montreal. That's the way they looked in those first 2 games of the season as well. But now you're kind of into the heart of the season right now. These middle games, the middle 28 of the 56 here is really where you're going to determine your placement. So that's why it's important for the Flyers to keep doing what they're doing and try to now take that game that they just played against Buffalo and the game they played against the Rangers earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Make that translate over to these top teams, the Pittsburghs, the Washingtons, whenever you get down the line and play the Islanders and the Bruins again too. That's what you need to translate over, because that's the effort that beats those teams.
Flyers Insider Kevin Durso at Kevin_Durso. And you look at it, they're 4th place, but of the groups, they've played the fewest games because of the COVID. They have the highest winning percentage. And when you think about all the guys that they have lost, the fact that they are right in the conversation with everybody, this is a very deep division for this COVID season. I think it kind of gives you a little indication of where this team can be. But my question, I guess, for you is, are they on par with the team that was in the bubble last year that won those games? Do you think this team is better than that team that was down in, up in Toronto?
I mean, that's a really tough question, and it's really hard to get a read on it completely without everybody there. That's why I said this next couple of weeks is really going to tell me a lot, because now you're getting everybody back. So if I see the entire full lineup and I'm seeing the performances I saw late February, early March of a year ago into the bubble, then I'll make a judgment call on that and be able to tell you for sure, yeah, this team might be better than the one we saw a year ago, because the younger players are taking that step and they're really finding their form at the right time of the season in the middle and starting to get into a rhythm. They're establishing their place in the standings. The good news for them right now is like you said, they haven't played with a full lineup yet. They've gone through all of these situations, the COVID situation, losing a guy like Couturier for 3 weeks, and they're still the leading team in that division in terms of points percentage right now, which is astounding, quite frankly, because there's no reason why they shouldn't have fallen apart without Couturier, or in those games where they didn't have half of their lineup. There's no reason why they shouldn't have. I mean, we saw the game against Boston in Lake Tahoe and what happens when you put an elite team like Boston out there with everybody and a team with half of a roster. So it's so lopsided. So now that's why I'm really looking forward to the next time they do play Boston, if they have a full lineup, because we haven't seen it yet. And I mean, that's a little ways down the road. They don't play Boston again until April now, but and there's so many games in this month of March with all the restructuring and rescheduling and things like that. But now we get to see them against some of these top teams and really get the chance to see what they look like with that full lineup.
All right, Kevin, we know the trade deadline is way off. It's April 12th in the NHL, but watching this team over what we've seen, it's kind of hard because of a lot of the players missed, but is there something that stands out definitively of this is what they have to look for to improve this team?
It's probably the same thing we've talked about all year. If they can find a true top four defenseman who can jump in and kind of be what Matt Niskanen was a year ago, then that would probably be the piece that would really set them apart and help them take that next step. Because, right now they're getting the goaltending, and it's not just Carter Hart this time. It's both goalies because Brian Elliott's been outstanding this season. So they've got the goaltending tandem that keeps them right in game no matter who's playing. Defensively, they've been better over the last couple of games, and they've shown what they can do. And I'm not disappointed with what they have at the moment to an extent because Shane Gostisbehere has come back better every game, it seems like. And he's talked about keeping it simple. And now the offensive side is coming around because he hasn't been as much of a defensive liability as we thought. So that's been okay. But if they can add one more piece there, because the forwards, they're deep at forward. You see what happens when they put some guys in different combinations like that. They threw the three guys who came off the COVID list, Jake Voracek, Oscar Lindblom, and Scott Lawton, onto a line together for these 2 games back, the first 2 games back from their time on the COVID list.
Right.
And all 3 of them helped out and scored a goal. Lawton got the payoff at the end, and that was the 3rd goal of the Saturday game. And it seems like these guys just click really well at forward. We've seen the emergence of Joel Farabee, the resurgence of James Van Riemsdyk, the continued steady play of Sean Couturier, and that's formed a nice top line. So Claude Giroux's not the central guy anymore. He's now on the second line. Kevin Hayes is delivering what he usually brings, good two-way ability. And they've got a lot of pieces at every single position up there. So I think that's the key. It's the top 4 defensemen if they can get one and find it at the right price.
What do you make of this emergence of JVR? I mean, he leads the team, if I'm not mistaken, in goals, assists, and points, right? I mean, I think he leads the team in all 3.
He does. And I don't think anybody saw this coming. I mean, I think we all kind of expected Sean Couturier to pick up where he left off a year ago. I had told you guys at the very beginning of the season, Joel Farabee was one of my guys to watch as a breakout player, and he's delivered on that. But I did not think that James Van Riemsdyk was going to be a guy who we would think about putting on the top line like that and think about him being the team leader in every category when it comes to scoring. But he continues to be at the right spots. He had some tough luck last year, and that's unfortunate for him because he's typically a guy who easily in the amount of time that they played, they didn't get the full 82, and so they got close to that. They got about 3/4 of the way in, and he would typically still at least score 20, 25 goals in that time, and he wasn't quite there with that, and he was still struggling to find a way to finish in a lot of those situations, particularly on the power play. He's doing that this year, and he's making it really hard to figure out how you're going to play this expansion thing when it comes down to the end of the season, because I think a lot of people were ready to just move on from him, chalk it up as a bad signing, a guy who doesn't fit the role and doesn't fit this team going forward. And now I think people are changing their minds. They're seeing a guy who is pretty much every single game giving you something. And I don't think it's even, the goal scoring is expected of him. It's the assists and the playmaking that's really stood out because that's normally not his game, but he's been such a good all-around player this year. He seems faster to me. He seems like he's got better vision, and he's setting guys up even more often than I remember. So he's really been the total package for them.
He's Kevin Durso. Flyers are going to be busy. Tuesday, Pittsburgh. Thursday, Pittsburgh. Saturday, Pittsburgh. Sunday, Capitals. Tuesday, Buffalo. Thursday, Capitals. Saturday, Capitals. So they got a busy stretch. He'll be busy, as always, at Kevin_Durso, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk on the hotline. Durso, we got matching jerseys. You got a Durso jersey. I got a proper.
Yeah, I hear you there.
Nice. Yours is what number are you back there? 20?
Yeah, it was 20. That was the jerseys in the pictures that I had showed you with the from before the wedding last year. So the Mr. and Mrs.
Oh, with the year you got married. There you go.
Yes,
20.
with the year we got married. There you
I'm
go.
rocking the 2-6 proper over here. He's got the 20 Durso. All right, brother. I'll see you soon.
Always appreciate it, Mike. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Kevin Durso, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. He'll be back, of course, on game night tomorrow night to preview that game against the Penguins. He'll be back on Thursday for the Penguins and Saturday for the Penguins. You're going to hear a lot of Durso coming up.